Hello and welcome back to Ada Pulse, the community funded news channel, keeping you up to date with everything Cardano. Since we're a community funded news channel, there is no coin shilling, no paper motion. We don't even discuss token price. On this episode of Exploring Cardano, I talk to Damon, the CMO of Charli3. We talk oracles, future developments, and the difficulties of building on Cardano. I hope you enjoy. Can you briefly explain what an oracle is, and then dive into what some of the changes and differences are for building one on Cardano?
Yeah, sure. So an oracle primarily is just used to gather data. Whatever kind of data you want is the difference. But typically it's used for getting off-chain data and putting it on-chain. And just what that means is each blockchain has a different language to it, different coding language. And the real world stuff, like if you're trying to grab stocks or even other chains, prices or something from different tokens and put them on yours, is there needs to be an intermediary that kind of translates that and writes it natively in the language that needs to be there. So for us, that's Cardano, and that's what Charli3 does. It's basically an intermediary data transfer type of thing. The difference on what we're doing on Cardano versus, say, what other oracles do on Ethereum, almost everything else is Ethereum based. So is mainly it's the code difference, which tends to add a little bit of security into it and scalability past what other chains can do. That's not really seen fully yet because Cardano is still kind of in infant land. But it's kind of coming up, especially with the last update, the Basel update to the chain. Makes a big difference on this tooling that we have at our disposal now. So one of the big things is reference inputs, which basically it's actually bad for the Oracle business model, but great for the chain, is that you're able to now take all of these sets of data instead of having to individually set them up and have them consumed by projects. It's a single point that then is infinitely readable from anybody who basically needs it, which is, like I said, a problem for our business because we can't sell it to the piece. But we figured out in other ways. There's other revenue models we have. So that's the basis of what an oracle usually does. Now it can do many other different things for validation and having that third party security. But yeah, the typical base knowledge is just understanding that it's a data transfer unit, basically.
How do you ensure the accuracy and reliability of the data that you provide? How do you sort of vet which data streams you put on, and then once you sort of decide which streams that you're going to put on chain, how do you constantly make sure that data is accurate?
Yeah, so the accuracy comes from the redundancy in the data streams that we actually take from. So as well as the node network. So there's multiple factors reading each one of these data sets and then coming up with what we call a consensus truth. So right now in our MVP, we're running 5 nodes, and we're taking data from different dexes on Ethereum for different prices of the same asset. So say right now it's ADA, right? We're running the ADA USD. So we're taking different values of the ADA USD, running each one of those through 5 different nodes, just in case one or two decides to be a rogue and say, hey, I'm going to report a wrong value. There's still 3 backups plus all of the other ones as well. So that's kind of where the reliability and safety aspects come in for also being fully decentralized, because we don't touch that at all. It's software that we give out to other people that are, again, another vetted source of for node operators. So that's where it keeps in for reliability of that data. And we're basically taking from the biggest sources within crypto right now. So the largest exchanges, so Binance and like Coinbase and stuff like that, to get those values, because that's where the primary amount of trading actually happens, right? So that's going to be the most up-to-date values, and they have a lot of, regulation around them. So we try and do that. As far as other data sources, when we go to off of crypto, off of blockchain type stuff, we're typically going just with major companies that already do data resale, that already have a really long line and history of doing this with other platforms. So we can read into that and understand that they have a big team and reasons to not screw up. But even if they do, we have redundancy measures behind it. So that's kind of the vetting process, and it's the same thing with node operators. Right now, we're really close knit with certain ones that we do vet to begin with, but we're not sharing that personal data with other people, obviously, like doing KYC. And community people will be later, but we will do a full KYC and vetting of everybody, just to make sure that everything's as secure as possible.
Yeah. And I'd imagine sort of bringing that real world data compared to the crypto data is sometimes more challenging than just pulling data from other crypto sources.
Yeah, that's kind of a major factor as well. The biggest the biggest problem is really just the translation to Plutus mainnet, to Cardano. That's the major factor of the Oracle, because there's other projects like Indigo right now. People keep asking us a lot. I'm sure you're familiar with Indigo protocol. So they keep asking us a lot about, oh, why didn't you integrate with Indigo off the beginning? And because we were planning to for a long time, they decided to go a different route with their datum format. So they're not using the standard that we put out. So we had to redo that. But we also plan to do a lot of off-chain stuff like gold or silver or Tesla or whatever the heck you want on their platform. And that's what they primarily want too, which is synthetics. And it turns out that regulation is the problem right now to bringing those online, because otherwise it's just a straight API that you pull from, right? And that's what they're doing right now, is that Chainlink, the big Oracle out there, puts out an API basically of their feeds, and that they're able to look at that API and then manually input that to their platform. So it's not local, it's not decentralized, it's not native to Cardano. So that's the big thing. Grabbing those API points is the easy part, whether it's on chain or off chain, or I mean like on blockchain or off blockchain text. It's the translation to native Cardano code for anybody to use, which is the hard part, and keeping it safe and decentralized, because now you have to trust that Indigo is providing those feeds properly, because they're the ones pushing. Yeah, which is fine for what they have set up. It's way better to get something out there, show it works, and then reformat later, which is what they're doing with us and the other Oracle OrcFacts to come up with their replace what they currently have, so it's more trusted.
Well, what's the future going to bring for Charli3 in terms of A, adoption, and then B, use cases? What new feeds are you planning? How many are you planning to bring on? And then how are you planning to get everyone to basically use the Oracle?
Yeah, so one of the big things for the base feed that we have, the ADA USD feed, was coming from a Catalyst, two successful Catalyst proposals we had in the past, which was to create free feeds. Now, this is for adoption of the platform as well as adoption of the chain, and allowing people to not have the costs associated with Oracle feeds to begin with. I'll explain further. So the primary feeds that people will want, which will be obviously ADA USD, ADA Bitcoin, ADA ETH. We're going to put our own in there, ADA C3, and whatever other one. I think it might be like ADA, like yours, the Euro stablecoin. And those will be all for free, and we'll run those as long as we can for free. And it was funded by Catalyst, which also helps our platform be used and our token have more utility, because then we're using that to purchase the C3 token to pay for the Oracle services and pay the nodes how they're supposed to be. So that gets adoption in because it's free and it's easy to use, and there's multiple platforms, or sorry, multiple feeds. As far as getting people that actually need that to come in, that's a different story. I mean, most of these projects that aren't ready to do it. The other thing is that a lot of projects want very odd custom things that they've never looked at what an oracle's meant to do. They just think, oh, it's data, I want it batched, and here you go. And some of them don't even know that it costs any money, which is insane to me. um, so they come to me and like, yeah, it's going to be about this much. And they go, what do you mean it's going to cost? I go like, yeah, it's a service. What do you expect? Um, so that's kind of the major issue right now, is that people are wanting different things that we don't do, or we're not even set up to try. They want like a batched API of like 30 different assets into one that's constantly updated, and they're like, oh well, I'll only have to pay for one feed then. I'm like, no, you have 30 feeds right
30
in that one
feeds,
thing.
yeah.
But now it's easily corruptible because it's an API and it's one thing for 30. You don't have that differentiation of 30 different feeds, going on. You still have to trade the same. So it's a bit weird. But so we have the feeds going on. We will have with Indigo, the next things we'll be doing with them is managing, I think, iBitcoin, their iBitcoin one that comes out, iETH, probably Euro stablecoin as well. And the other one is not for public knowledge yet, but they're very excited about it. So we're still working with them pretty heavily. We're thinking about you putting the ADA USD feed on an API instead of directly from our node operators, because certain platforms like NMaker or like the because it's going to be for free anyway, so we're not losing revenue on this. But platform like the NFT platforms like NMaker aren't baked into backend Plutus architecture, right? That's not their function, but they would like to be able to use a current ADA USD stable price displayed on their sites, or even to use for minting policies and stuff. And they currently can't, because again, they can't plug into that backend stuff. They're not set up for it. So if we put out an API from whatever the nodes come up with right away, then it's still coming directly from us, and it's a trusted set, and anybody can plug into it for free on chain. So that's what we're thinking about for ease of adoption that way. And that way NFT people can use it a lot easier, as well as gaming people that aren't really set up for this heavy DeFi that we have right now. Product wise, going further, the next thing we have is, and this is all on our website, so if anybody's listening and wants to go check it out, you can go check that out. As well as on our Twitter, there's a recent news article that goes into more depth of what each one of these things are. We'll have the next product, which is called ODV, which is on-demand validation. So this is perfect for something like Meld in liquidations. Right? Someone wants to liquidate at a specific price. They want to check it in that moment. Is this price X, Y, or Z? And then it pushes that validation. So our nodes, it'll use the same node network, but it'll be refactored in a different way, where it's not actually writing a price on chain. It's just checking it through the node saying yes or no, as like again, it's just a check, and it's off-chain computation. And then it goes, yes, okay, that's exactly what it is. You're clear for your liquidation. Here you go, boom, and then they can do it. So it's on demand. You're not having to worry about this consistent feed like the price feeds, where it's like updated every hour or something and then pushed on chain to be referenced. It's just a check, like a yes or no question in the moment. And so you pay a little bit for that. But say you wanted, a price feed that gets updated every 30 seconds, so you could do the same thing with a liquidation. It would be unbelievably expensive, like $170,000 a month. Like, it's not viable.
That's pretty expensive.
Yeah, and that's just like our costs for running it, because every time you trigger a request, right, it has to go through like all 5 nodes, or if we're running more nodes, more than that. Plus we have to put a premium on top of that, and our server costs and transaction costs, and like the wallet transfer, the ADA that goes out, that cost, and so everything adds up.
Yeah, for sure. I guess this sort of leads on to what are the biggest challenges in running a blockchain based business?
Yeah. I mean, for us right now, it's really the chain that we've chosen and understanding it. Cardano is rife with problems, and that's mainly, like, I don't mean that in a bad way. It's because it's innovative, right? Where it's constantly changing and looking and researching about what's problematic with the other chains in a long-term perspective, and going in to change that. And it's highly community driven. Like when IO puts out these new features, like the Vasil ones, they don't come out with tooling to be able to use those features. You got to figure that crap out yourself, which has been a major drawback for most of the major projects. Like, I'd say almost all of the major projects building now that are still alive, if we started development like, I don't know, like March of last year in 2022, we probably would have been at the same point, because you constantly have to refactor everything every time one of these updates comes out, and it's a problem. But with Vasil, we feel like it's been much more solidified, that there won't be these huge major changes anymore, and it can move from that. But as far as a general business thing is, time zones is a major problem, because it's fully, like, your team is fully remote all over the world, right? You're not just sitting in an office to get stuff done. So productivity can be a problem there, and keeping people motivated, because you don't have that same sort of bond as you do if you go into an office and you're hanging out and talking. And if you have a question, you can just go to that person right away and ask that question. You don't have to wait 9 hours to figure it out, or like you and me have a 12-hour time difference and figure out who wants to be at night and in the morning. And those are some major struggles and hurdles with running a blockchain business. The other factor is, the biggest one probably, is a fatigue, like burnout, because it's constant, right? The updates in blockchain tech are immeasurably fast. I'm constantly researching, and I can never keep up. And if you try and do everything, there's no way. And most people never take breaks. Most of the projects haven't taken a break since the beginning. Most of them didn't take any Christmas. We did, because we hadn't taken a single day off since we launched in 2021 in April. So we finally took some time off over Christmas, but it still feels almost like nothing.
Yeah, I know. I basically do research Cardano for a living, and even I struggle to keep up with most of the stuff going on. What's it like building in the bear market in terms of sort of funding now? The team dynamics, obviously, you talked about the time difference and how that's sort of difficult, and then recruiting. Are you expanding, or how has recruiting been for, especially Cardano?
Two of those things go hand in hand, funding and recruiting and expanding. So right now we're not, we've actually scaled down quite a bit, which is the same as other people. We've kept all of our current devs that are needed on. We got all of our backend Haskell Plutus stuff done with, and then we stopped that development for now, because there's no need to continue it. Our node operation, our node software is what needs to be continued. So we kept those specialized devs on board. And then some of our marketing we're peeling back, and web development. Now that we have a new website, we don't really need too much of that anymore. So funding is tough, because our token price is very low and liquidity is low. So we can't try and sell into it for extra funding, because it tanks it so hard. I mean, the amount that we need per month it's not viable. If it was peak bull market last year, we could have sold off, $4 or $5 million worth, and it would have barely made a blip, because liquidity was crazy. We had like 170 mil market cap for really no reason. It was hype, that was all it was. But we didn't feel like even doing that, which was stupid. We should have done it for sure in hindsight, because we would have been fine. Our raise was relatively small, so we don't have a huge war chest like some of these other major projects do. Just because we thought we would be up and running within like 5 months, as everyone thought at the time. And so it's difficult. We're still looking for new investment from other people. So if you're an investor out there who's listening, feel free to contact us in any way. You can go through Michael here as well, if you want. And it's hard, because most VCs are out, and most VCs are just vultures, right? They're just looking for a quick pump and dump. If you are a token that is already launched, they want nothing to do with you, because they can't make 100% or 200% right away, because usually they get seed pricing, right? So that's typically 100% lower or 50% lower than launch price, like IDO price. So that's 100% gain for them out the bat. And even if they only get 10% right off the bat, they still have recouped their investment. And then 6 months down the line, when they get more, they are instantly in profit. And they've never had to do anything. It's almost a guarantee. So
Yeah.
if you've launched at all, they want nothing to do with you. It's not about longevity. It's not about quality of project. It's only about money for them. So as soon as VCs emptied the space when things went down, it's been tough in bear market times. So we had Catalyst, which we're very thankful for, the Catalyst funding, which we're still using part of, especially to build out our dev portal for documentation and getting people onboarded a lot easier. This goes back to your other question: how do we scale better? And that's part of it. Just having a user experience and the dev experience a lot easier to onboard instead of us having to handhold you through it. So once we get that documentation up, that'll be easy. And we had one other investor. Just like an angel investor, basically, that we did an over-the-counter deal with in June, which has helped us out tremendously. So that's where we're at, but we're really excited to finally have our product and get people in, so
Yeah.
we don't
It's
we
always
can
good.
actually have a revenue source. That would be fantastic.
Yeah. Can you comment on any more partnerships or collaborations that you have in the space?
Yeah, so I think I mentioned, Indigo and Meld already.
Indigo.
I'm just
Yeah.
tossing the big names out there, and that's for two different products. The other one would be with Atala Prism, which is kind of co-run with some members of IOHK. Uh, and this is kind of a larger collaboration between many people: Book.io, Student Reader, EndMaker, Summon Platform, and Lido Nation, and something else. So basically, it's bringing uh, kind of student scholarships and education to students. So Atala Prism has created uh, a course, I'll say, through all these other people, and be minted by Book.io and sold on EndMaker, and the DAO for the payouts would be handled by Summon. Um, and the whole point of it is to have this decentralized identity token or NFT for the students by Atala Prism. And when they complete their coursework, they get a course completion type thing, which is held by the education platform that's doing it. And then to put it on chain and verify each source. So somebody doesn't come in and say, I have 10,000 verified sources, and empty the DAO right away, because it'll just be a trigger. It'll go through us, and that'll be our on-demand validation, our ODV product, that will do that. So every time somebody comes into their portal or whatever, and says, this is my identity with my wallet, here's my NFT written into it with this data, can you check the ministry or like the records? And it'll go through us, validate it through 5 different sources, and then like 5 different node operators to make sure it's real, and then give them the payout automatically. And I think that this is huge, because this is just a pilot project. Like, that can expand to all different types of scholarship payouts for people, and allowing people to get scholarships that might not be able to otherwise, or didn't know that they existed. It allows more companies to also reach out that want to do scholarship incentives to actually do this on a larger scale. And as far as a business model for us goes, that's huge, because we get paid out a little bit per request for that validation. And that's the starting MVP of this pilot project would be in Ethiopia high schools, and that's 5 million students right off the bat. So say even if we get 10% of that, I mean, that's big for us.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's just one, and they can apply for many or multiple times. So it also increases a lot of adoption through the education to younger people, right? Of what is Cardano, or how to build, just even how to get in, and how to set up a wallet, and then that might pique more interest. So that's something big that we're looking forward to. But there's a lot of different games and DeFi platforms and NFT platforms that are contacting us for different things. So the Maze /Rats DAO guys we're working with to do a few different things. Like I said, the NFT platforms like NMaker want to do that. Cornucopias is one we've already announced, but they'll have lots of feeds in their game when it comes out. One just for portrayal of the different feeds on like billboards and stuff, just for fun. And the other one would be, or the major other thing would be for player payouts. So, you want to make sure that by the end of your competition or your race or event, the pot prize that's up, if somebody put it up like $1,000 of ADA, you have to know what $1,000 of ADA is worth at that time,
Right.
in ADA. So they want that accurate payout in a decentralized way. So Cornucopias and any other gaming platform would be big. We talked to Drunken Dragons a long time ago as well, but they haven't gotten back to us for a smidge. But yeah, that's kind of where we're sitting right now. If you watch the what was I going to say? Oh, Clumsy Ghost is another NFT project that wants to do NFTs with input price feeds into them, so you can always look at that, and it's constantly updating. So they'll be using our free feeds to manage that one. And then yeah, past that, as far as product range goes, we'll also have like a randomization, like a VRF, the similar to what Chainlink has on ours. But the ODV is kind of our big thing that other people don't have yet. That's the unique product.
Yeah, interesting. So I think oracles really are that bridge between blockchain and the real world, and I think that's what most blockchains, especially Cardano, are finding it difficult at the moment to onboard sort of the real world to the crypto space. There's a lot of projects building, crypto related projects for other crypto related businesses, and it's sort of all one little ecosystem, and there's not much of a bridge going over to sort of the real world and real fi.
Right.
What do you think needs to change for that bridge to be built? And what do you think the future is for Cardano in that respect?
Yeah, I mean, Cardano's set themselves up to do that more than other chains, right? There's the whole thing with their education ministry in Ethiopia. It's part of the mission, right? And the idea. I think that's the big thing on changing it, right? These other chains, I don't really see them doing much with the real world other than entertainment stuff, sports and gaming, generally, and that's it. It's all entertainment. Like, what's the benefit to that? What's the bigger picture? What's the more adoptability thing? Those are all, to me, that's more finite. Like, it's in the moment, it's fun, it's hype, and then it goes away. But setting this stuff up for what we're doing with the Ethiopian school ministry that can continually expand outwards for years and years and years. The idea of bringing more DeFi to RealFi, things such as the Landano project, or World Mobile. And I'd say my favorite one at the moment, man, I say my favorite one and I blank on their name. They're doing a housing project in Africa, and doing like fractionalized NFTs to build houses for low income families.
I've heard of them. Yeah,
Empower. There we go. Yeah. So the Empower project, and they're fantastic, right? And that's long term, real, meaningful work that people can use in their everyday life. I mean, the entertainment side of things is fine too, but only if you set it up as a staple for how it actually works, not just selling a bunch of NFTs, but say you're going into a festival and you're paying with, you're only having an NFT ticket, or all the stuff you buy within that event is also done in crypto through a credit card that's the same way. How does that work into things to have it so you don't really realize you're even using crypto while using it? I mean, that's the major adoption, and that all comes from the main idea of how to implement and getting people to onboard that, but it's a long process. I mean, the major corporations of the world don't want to buy into something that their shareholders might be worried about. And the typical shareholder of these major Fortune 500 companies, there's a lot older, and they're not going to look at crypto favorably. Right. So it's kind of that dance, but you see it all the time. I mean, if you're researching things all the time, you see all the regulation talks going on, you see all the larger larger companies moving into the space quietly, and other investors buying it up. And even though it's a bear market, it's very, I don't know, exciting for the future, because you see how many other people are starting to creepily move in. It doesn't seem like it's going anywhere.
Mm-hmm. I think that sort of brings us on to the last question. What one thing does Cardano need to do to focus on to sort of help its developers and help projects actually build? Because I know I hear this from a lot of people that Cardano is probably one of the most difficult blockchains to build on right now. It is getting better with a lot of tooling by the community. But what's the one thing that developers need?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, it's just, you just hit it right there. It's just tooling, right? They come out with amazing features and then don't give you any way to use them, and then they go, oh, well, we might support this, we might support this, we might support this. And then efforts are split and fractured, and then nothing gets fully developed. So this was a huge problem for us, is that we developed along the PAB, the Plutus application backend, from the beginning, because that's what Cardano said they were. That's what IOHK. I'll specify IOHK. It's not Cardano. And that's what they said that they were going to fully delve out as all of the tooling for everyone to be able to use together, right? So you don't have to rebuild it every time. It doesn't have to be custom. Everybody's using the same stuff. And then they basically abandoned it. And then they kind of came back to it. So we went, okay, we'll keep building with it. And then they kind of went off of it and went to an M Labs creation, the CTL. And then we're like, okay, well, if you build everything with that and the new features have to use CTL, then we're stuck. We're screwed and like sitting in dead water here, because we just did 8 months of development with PAB, which you're not putting any more updates to, and we have to update all the time. So it's really just like sticking to one goddamn lane. and when you come out with a product, make sure you have the accessories for that product so people can use it. Like they're kind of doing, they're doing worse than Apple used to, where they say, okay, here's a phone, but you don't have any headphones with it. You have to go then buy the headphones separately, but you can only buy our headphones. In this case, they're saying, here's the phone. If you want to use headphones, go and invent them yourself and then come back.
Yeah.
And then everyone comes up with different headphones that aren't compatible with each other's platforms. Right. So this has been a major thing. And we've talked to IOHK a lot. The Cardano DeFi Alliance, which is run by myself and M Labs and Indigo, with many other projects involved, was initially created for this reason, to talk to them about it. But and things have gotten further because we've bitched at them plenty, and their organization is a bit better. But it's kind of come to the point where we waded through the waters so much that it's there. So like we have that tooling now, but we're not giving it out for free, because we had to work on it for so much. So the biggest thing would be having free open libraries with tooling, like the open source thing that they champion. And we would love to, but the competition is still too fierce to just give out your code open source. Yeah, like if we did that, Chainlink would just barrel in and say, all right, see you later, losers. We have all your crap. Like, done, and we'd be screwed, So we can't do that. The dexes are more or less the same. So I think people figured that one out. But it's the projects like Indigo or ourselves and Meld. Like, we can't just give out the tooling of what we're doing. But that's the biggest thing, is get the tooling, get the open sourced library, so new developers can come in and build faster. And that'll increase adoption of the chain like crazy, because now you can build on it easily. And that now it's more functioning. There's more transaction volume. There's more people coming in. There's more ideas being thrown around. Without that, you're just making the user experience incredibly horrible and hard to deal with. So there's that's the major point for development side of things. Marketing wise, it's doing pretty damn good. I wouldn't say much on that front though.